Have you ever wondered if there was a way to make your cardboard project stronger? Or have you ever wished that you could have a piece of cardboard just be a little more rigid or a little bit more stiff? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you 10 ways to make your cardboard projects much stronger so they don't break. And tip number 1 is to use wooden reinforcements. So what I have back here is a cardboard shield that I made a couple years ago when I wanted to do some like LARPing and was going to take some beating from other people. So it looks really cool on the front, in case you're wondering, but back here is where the magic happened. I made the shield. It was too weak out of just the cardboard, so I had all of these wood scraps on it, and I took those, simply used hot glue to put those on. There's some full-on, like, thicker pieces of lumber down here, but those seriously reinforced the cardboard in the critical areas where it tended to bend. And on here, you can see that even on the top edges where it would get smacked by some like heavy-duty foam weapons, it's reinforced to be even stronger. And now, pro tip, if you're ever making a cardboard shield, you can take like pieces of Tupperware, not Tupperware, but like when you get like plastic containers that your food comes in, and those can be cut apart like a big lettuce container or something, and then you get this nice clear plastic, and you can use that for like seeing through, so you can smack people and not get your face in the way, or if people are shooting you with Nerf guns. That's just a side note. I used to have a big plastic piece up here, but it got smashed by a foam mace. And now the cardboard is really easy to shape and mold, so we can make cool stuff out of that. And then the thing about the wood is it just makes it stronger, and we can take the advantage of that really easily by just gluing it on. Now, I do have an 11th bonus tip for you coming up at the end of this live stream, so just stick around for that. It's not really like a technique to make your cardboard project stronger, so that's why I didn't make the official list, but it's something you're going to want to pay attention to. So tip number 2 is to use pins or dowels and stuff like that in your cardboard project. So right here, we got our piece of cardboard, and then this is a little metal pin. This is actually chopped out of like some fence attachments, but this could be like a toothpick or a dowel, but metal is a pretty nice way to go. And what we can do with this is stick it through the corrugations of our cardboard. So we've got the corrugations here, and we could stab it down this way, but that's kind of loose, so maybe if you've got like a full-on dowel, it would work out, but this is not my preferred direction. Depends upon what you need. I like to go sideways against the corrugation, and I'll just stab it through each layer as I go down. You got to be a little bit careful, because sometimes when you're doing this, it gets caught, and that's just not very pleasant, because it rips a big hole in your cardboard. So just watch out for that. And it's helpful to have it be sharp. This one is pretty dull, and if you want it to be sharp, you can take a pair of like pliers and just cut the end at an angle to make it nice and pointy. But now we've got this pin going through our cardboard, and you can chop off the ends to make them really flat. Or what you could also do is, if you got like a long project, you just stab the pin all the way in and then call it good. If you want this to really make sure it sticks, you can put a little bit of hot glue on your pin. In this case, since I had a hard time getting it through, I'm probably just going to want to put it through the same hole. I'll put that hot glue on the end, and then stab my pin back through, being kind of careful, watching that I'm not going to punch out the sides, and then wait for that to cool a second. We got some glue on the inside along that pin now. Of course, we're working with hot glue, so we want to kind of watch out, because we don't want to let it freeze too fast and get in the way. And you can see here, this method doesn't always work out super perfectly. We got a little bit of a lump here on our cardboard where the pin didn't go through perfectly straight. It's kind of coming out of one edge there on the back. But it's definitely stronger than before, and it's a lot harder to bend than it previously was. Now, tip number 3 is to use a hot glue gun for the fraying edges of your cardboard. So, right here, I've got a model I made a long time ago out of a phone stand, and the edges of it are really starting to come apart. So you can see, like up here, the cardboard's fraying. It's fraying apart here, sort of on all the edges. And what you can do to prevent that is add hot glue to the edge of your cardboard. So right here, I've got my piece of cardboard, I got my hot glue gun, and I'm going to just run the glue gun along the edge of the cardboard. And what this is going to do is it's going to jam the glue down inside all of those corrugations and create a much more durable edge. If you really want this to like be a little cleaner, you can lick your hand and get it a little like wet, and then you can actually touch the cardboard a couple times before it all dries up, and your fingers won't stick to it. Obviously, use at your own risk, but I like doing this. It really makes I can like push the glue down, get it to look a little nicer than before. It's kind of balling over some of the edges, so I'm going to lick my finger and try to sort of flatten those out like that. So that's one way to put the hot glue across there. Alternatively, you can take the hot tip of your glue gun and sort of just run it along here and get it all sort of flattened out like that. Or if you didn't want to put as much glue on, maybe you just had a paper creation and the edge of the paper was coming off a little bit. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll get a little glue out of the tip of my glue gun. You can see it sort of dripping there, and then I'll put that on and just use the side of the glue gun to sort of add a thin like skiff of glue to my cardboard and or my paper. I wouldn't normally do this with cardboard because cardboard I can use the other method, but if it's just like a piece of paper, you don't want to add too much, you can do that. Just sometimes this is not gonna look very nice because you got glue on it, but can definitely help prevent it from fraying. I just created a project a little bit ago where I wanted a big clamp for something, so I was going to clamp this piece of cardboard to hold up a light that I'm actually using like right here right now, because it couldn't fit on the stand that I had it for, and I built up several pieces of cardboard. The clamp is going to go on, and it worked initially, but I knew that later, after using it hundreds of times, all that cardboard, all those corrugated edges are going to start fraying and falling apart, and it's not going to look as nice. So to make it more durable, I added a lot of hot glue into those edges, and now I'm more confident that it's going to stay together. So that glue isn't really for bonding it together, it's for keeping it from like fraying and falling apart. Now, tip number 4 is to use extra beads of hot glue. This might be pretty obvious, so I'm going to rush through it kind of fast. But when we're gluing two pieces of cardboard together, we want to, first of all, glue them together normally. So I like to sort of take it and put it along this piece of cardboard that I'm going to be gluing on, like if I'm doing a 90-degree angle like this, because I know that this is going to be perfectly straight rather than having to guess by gluing on here. Now I'm going to squeeze that down, and that's super great. Like this T is probably going to hold together pretty well, but I have no like guarantees it's going to be great. You can see a little bit of the glue oozing out of the edges, so I know that I got a decent bit in there. If I want to make it really strong though, I'm going to add an extra bead. I like to take my hot glue gun, I'm going to move it forward as I go down here. You can actually see there's a little bit of a gap because of the width of the tip of the glue gun, and the glue is going to fit inside that gap as I move it up to make a nice strong connection with my cardboard. So I'm going to squeeze out from the glue gun. I don't want to do too much, but I'm just creating like a caulked bead along the edge, and that's adding this sort of like side connection to my cardboard. There we go. And now you can see right here, if my camera focuses, there we go. We've got this angled bead of glue all the way down that edge, and we can do the same thing on the other side to get that really strong. But I'm going to show you actually what happens when you go backwards. It's going to leave a nice round bead of glue as I go backwards, which isn't quite as effective for holding it all together because it's just like a little round piece on there versus being laid nice and flat against it. Some of the glue isn't actually touching. So if I have something like this, sometimes I want the glue to sort of spread up the sides so that it gets a wider surface area connection. It's dried a little already, but I can get my finger wet by like licking it, and I can press that down too, and that's going to help it spread out a little more and have a slightly more effective connection and stay a little more out of the way. So that's how we get really strong cardboard connections, cardboard joints. Now, I'm sort of sticking on this cardboard manipulation theme for a while. Trust me, we got some more interesting tips coming up, but these are the most practical ways to do it. They're the ways that I use the most. We don't want to go to like complicated methods of making our cardboard more stiff when we could simply just modify the way that we're making the cardboard. So, making our cardboard creation. Now, the last tip is we can fold our cardboard, and it makes it a heck of a lot stronger. So this is tip number 5. I can show you here this phone stand. This is an example of folding the cardboard, and that's making it really strong up here and all along here. They're all like cardboard folds. So, and this is not bending like at all the other way. I made a stupid decision and cut the back out to try to do something else, and now it's really weak. But a better example is back behind me. This gun, themed from The Mandalorian Season 1, is made with a folded cardboard here at the end. Now, when I folded this cardboard, I left a little width up here. There's quite a bit of tension kind of in this piece of cardboard, and it's also a triangle. So I've got another piece glued on the inside. You can kind of see it inside there. So what's going on here is the triangle shape in geometry is the most basic geometric, like 3D shape or 2D shape, and it's super stable because you can't change its shape without changing the length of any of its sides. So when I have a triangle of cardboard, it's not gonna, unless it gets actually crushed, none of the corners are gonna like suddenly bend and change shape. So that creates a really strong structure, and the folded cardboard is really strong as well because it's got this support in like different directions, and I don't have to worry about that glue bond coming apart. So that's neat. But as an example, I've like literally stabbed, I guess I've stabbed people with this cardboard end when messing around with siblings and stuff, and it still stayed together. Like most cardboard creations are going to break when you start abusing them and whacking stuff, but this has stayed together. I'm really impressed with the way that these folds have worked. So I want to show you really quick on a piece of cardboard what it looks like to do a super strong fold, especially if you're doing like, that's a really big example, but something smaller here. If I want to fold this cardboard, we'll say I want to fold it like right here. So I could just fold it. Boom, there we go. That's like my level 1 fold. Maybe I'm going to glue like these two edges on here. And that would be okay, especially since I got the bottom glued down. That's going to be a pretty tough structure. But if I maybe want to have just the fold by itself, it's helpful to have a line. I'm going to cut through one layer of cardboard. This is the way I do it. I think that it's more effective than most other ways, but I haven't done any sort of scientific testing. Now from here, I've got this gap in my cardboard, so to make the fold stay and like keep itself really strong, I'm going to put a bead of glue down here. So when I cut it, notice I only cut through one layer of the cardboard. I didn't cut through both. Now I'm going to fold this in. And now there's glue stuck on the inside, and there's some sticking out right here. And I actually want just a little bit more glue to make this really strong. So I'm adding a second bead, kind of like we did earlier. You can see the glue's kind of pooling up in front of the nozzle, which isn't really what I want. It means I probably have too much because it makes a really nasty, ugly looking thing. So it looks kind of ugly right now. The glue's all over the place. So I'm going to try to flatten it out. Again, I'm like getting my finger wet and pressing down on it. And there we go. Now we have a fold that's going to be really strong because it's got glue on the inside, sort of holding it there in the same place. And then this larger fold has given us like a wider connection, so there's less leverage against the fold when it tries to get bent. And like I was saying, triangles are the strongest shape. So if I was trying to make like a pointy thing that was really strong, it's good to fold it, glue it, make a triangle. If you're trying to make really strong stuff, just think about like a bridge. Bridges are actually almost always made of like basic triangles. I'm going to get more into that in just a minute. But if you are live with me right now, at the end of this live stream, we are going to have like a Q&A session, so feel free to drop any questions you have for me about creativity, finding time for hobbies, making stuff out of cardboard, and I'd love to help you out with any of that. But tip number 6 is to double layer your cardboard. And you might be like, okay, Eli, that's really obvious. We're going to make 2 layers of cardboard on something. So I'm going to give you a couple examples though. And first of all, my cardboard shield right here, made out of like 2 layers of like a full-on cardboard box, and then like some extra layers here in the center. And that works. Oh, it's actually 3 layers of a full cardboard box. And I believe I hot glued those together. Something to watch out for when you're hot gluing is hot glue dries really fast, and when you're gluing an entire sheet of cardboard together, what happens a lot of the time is the glue dries too fast. So I recommend trying to use like a liquid Elmer's glue or something when you're gluing huge sheets of cardboard together, unless you're gonna like glue it part way with it like folded up and then fold it down, and you work your way across your cardboard piece like one small section at a time. But still, for big sheets, liquid glue tends to be the best. One more example of double layer cardboard is right here, and this is a like book holder that I use all the time, like basically every day. It's taken some abuse, but these hooks on the edges, 3 layers of cardboard, because they got to hold up books inside this book holder, and that keeps them a lot stronger. And they did break, so here's just a quick like plug. I used a 3D pen to secure this hook, which had broken when I like chucked an entire pillow off on it. But this is now this is way stronger than it used to be, because now it's coated in plastic. So if you happen to be interested in 3D pens, I'll drop a link in the description. But there's always different ways to do things. I could have used hot glue to fix this, but at the time I happened to have my 3D pen out, and this needed to be fixed, so I just reinforced it with a 3D pen. And there's double layer cardboard. And now tip number 7 is grain orientation. So cardboard has a grain. I'm sure you know this. I was already talking about it. You've got that grain right there. Now, things can be weaker or stronger based on the direction the grain is facing. So in this stormtrooper gun that I have right here, all of the ribs along the barrel have the grain pointing to the outside. And typically, to make things stronger, especially if you've got something thin, you want like as many grain pieces going through it as possible. So right here, I've got all of the grains going through. I don't want one long piece of grain. I want the grain going as many like separate little ridges as possible going through there. Now, that looks nicer in general than when you're looking at like these edges. The like half flaps in there can end up looking kind of nasty. So that's really great. And the grain, yeah, you want it pointing to the outside. Now, something to pay attention to here is with this phone stand that I used as an example earlier. It's got all of those like reinforced folds, but what I did is it'd actually be stronger if I had the grain oriented in the other direction. So this made the folds really easy to make, because I could just fold it along the grain, and maybe it was worth it doing it that way. But then the disadvantage is that it also likes to buckle along the grain. Cardboard naturally buckles along the grain. So like here, I've got this piece. I can bend it easily along one of those grain pieces. It'll bend, and it is longer this way, I understand that, but it's gonna have a much harder time bending this way until I kind of just like crush the whole thing, because there's no good spot for it to bend along there. So if I had done that with this, it wouldn't have bent so easily along these sections where it just sort of found a natural bending place. And that's what I'm talking about with grain orientation, is there's different orientations will make it stronger. So on this piece, I've got a part going across the top and a part going across the bottom, and that's acting as a rib, which is actually going to be a tip in just a second. But if I had this piece going like the other way, up and down, it would be pretty easy to bend here, and this is not a very good example, but just paying attention to that grain orientation. And now, while I'm coming back over here to this book holder, sometimes it helps to alternate the grain orientation, especially if you're not sure what direction the stress on your part is going to be coming from. So here for this hook, I have grain going one way, and then grain... Psych, that's all the same. I really thought I alternated the grain orientation. Wow. Well, I didn't do it on that one. Anyway, when you have your grain, it's stronger in one way than the other. If I change the direction so that one is facing a different direction, that can create like a crisscross structure that's better at supporting it than if it's all just facing in the same direction. Now I'm going to take you back to that bridge analogy. If you look at a picture of a bridge, I don't have one with me right now, but they tend to have triangles in them, this like wavy zigzag, and the bridge is designed to support weight from the top down. And now our cardboard is a lot like a micro bridge. So it's got this corrugation going through it, and it's designed to support the cardboard in like one direction. And that's why when they make cardboard boxes, they're shaped like a box. So altogether, it's supported in all the different directions because it's a 3D shape, and they just curved it around. So it doesn't really matter that much for them. And something else to note, in a cardboard box, the grain is usually going up and down. So, sorry, I just had to check my brain for a second. Like, if this was the corner of a cardboard box, the grain is going up and down because if it was this way, where's my crushed piece? If it was this way, we've got all of our grain coming side to side. When you set another cardboard box on top of it and you get all that weight and that compression, it's going to buckle a lot more easily, and people don't want their stuff to be squished. So, oftentimes cardboard boxes, they're made this way so that you've got your corrugations are pointing straight up, and then those don't get squished as easily, but this one did because I already crushed it a bunch of times. So that's grain orientation. Sorry, we spent a while on tip number 7. But tip number 8 is adding ribs. So maybe it's too much work to add an entire extra piece of cardboard like I did for that cardboard shield. So what you can do is add ribs. And I'm going to take us back one more time to this book holder because it needed to be really strong to hold stuff. We've got ribs going along here. They're alternated at 90 degrees from the corrugation in the normal piece. Again, I've got all the separate little pieces in here to keep that like together, otherwise it kind of falls apart. And then along the front, I got triple layer cardboard that I glued all together, and that's to support this front edge from like falling apart. So we can add ribs to our cardboard to help improve its strength. And tip number 9 is to build around something. So cardboard's really strong. Sometimes our projects happen to be just the perfect shape that we can use some other item and build around it to make stuff stronger. So right here on our cardboard gun, the Mandalorian gun, the center of this is actually all PVC pipe, and that keeps this entire barrel super rigid. I just use all of the details are made out of cardboard and paper. And then back inside here, kind of like our wood tip, oh, I'm knocking some stuff, like our wood tip, I added a piece of PVC to the inside of the barrel where I noticed that it was too weak and it was starting to buckle. I did this afterwards, but the PVC pipe here was really well integrated, and everything's just built around it, and now the gun is super strong along that barrel, and nothing really bends it. An alternate, like, bonus tip I'm going to get to in a second is sort of the reverse of what you might think. But our last tip, tip number 10, before we get into those bonus tips, is to coat your cardboard. So, right here, I have a fidget spinner, okay? And now fidget spinners get touched by your hands a lot. This is one of the first things I actually made out of cardboard. But you can coat them in hot glue. So this entire fidget spinner is coated in like layers of hot glue that I put on there and like flattened out with the glue gun. I went around the edges, and now everything is pretty strong, but it's all coated in hot glue. It's still kind of flexible because it's just cardboard and hot glue. But that has kept this from like falling apart or fraying at all over this entire time. Now, you can also coat things in super glue, and I've done that a couple times. Super glue hardens and it gets super hard. So if you happen to have a lot of super glue, you can coat stuff in it. It makes it really strong. That's totally awesome, especially if you got like small paper things like little bullets or whatever you want to make hard. You can use super glue. You might have seen that in other videos. Now, the last way you can coat your cardboard, I've never personally tried this, but there's a video on YouTube called, let me look, How to Make Cardboard Stronger Than Wood, Cardboard Hack. That's the name of the video. And the guy uses some wood glue, some PVA wood glue. Type Bond 1, I think, is the exact version of wood glue he was using. And he puts it into like a spray bottle or like a wipe, and he puts it all over these big boxes to mount like big speakers in that he made out of cardboard. And that creates a much stronger cardboard than he would have otherwise had. And he actually then put screws through it. So we made a ton of layers of cardboard, used it like an adhesive, like a spray adhesive to put them all together, because that's the easiest way to kind of do it if you're doing like a ton of it. And then like sprayed on a ton of this PVA wood glue mixed with water that sort of saturated in the cardboard and then hardened, and it made it a lot harder, and you could put screws in it, and it worked really well. It's not actually stronger than wood, but it is really strong and light. And then... yeah, that's how you coat. But a little tip on putting screws in cardboard. You can actually do that too if you add wood inserts. So I've got screws in my cardboard shield where I have wood on the back, so I could screw straight into it to make sure that wood didn't come off and it all stayed really rigid. But we're about to get into those bonus tips. But before we get there, I have a question for you. Boom. How do you make your cardboard projects strong? So... just share your methods in the comments below. If there's anything that I haven't mentioned, let me hear about it. Sometimes I learn things from you guys in the comments. I'm scrolling through there. There's all kinds of things that you share with me that I'm like, boom, had no idea about that. And it's a great experience. So you might want to check out the comments as well. See if anybody else has cool tips about making your cardboard stronger. While you're typing that out, here are our bonus tips. Number 1, use thicker cardboard. Thicker cardboard is stronger, and I'm going to give you a quick showdown right here. There are several different types of cardboard. I have an entire video on this, but we're not going to get into that. Boom. Dry erase marker. And they make cardboard that comes in single layer, and that's like our regular cardboard. Looks just like this, has those squiggles in the middle. Now, they also make cardboard that comes in thicker versions and thinner versions of that single. So they actually make a version where it's just 1/2. It looks like this, like one of the sides is just peeled off. You got one layer down here, and the corrugation's in the middle. And then they also make like really thin versions where the corrugation's really small, and then it goes across, and they make really thick versions. So you can find the one that's best for you, like in that Mandalorian gun. The tip at the end is really thick folded cardboard, but some of the details are thin pieces. Like the little detail work on the pommel here, the barrel, those didn't need to be very thick, so they're little thin pieces of cardboard, versus up here, those are thicker pieces. And then they also make double layer cardboard. So if you wanted something even stronger, Home Depot has some boxes like this that we've had, but you're going to have one layer, and then they'll use a certain type of cardboard here. I don't need to get into all the names and stuff, but that'll be like a thicker version, and then often they'll have like a thin version right here. Not quite as thin as this. My drawings are obviously not to scale. But what this does too is corrugation is usually the weak point, but when they have a thick version, these are spaced further apart. Like that's our gap, the measurement here. And then down here, they're spaced a lot closer together. So the corrugations don't line up, and that makes it a lot harder for it to bend and break. And then I think I may have seen triple layer cardboard, but I don't know if anybody ever really uses that. And there's different kinds of double. So just keep an eye out when you see a cardboard box that's like double layer. One time I went over to our neighbor's recycling bin and just ripped a bunch out without asking them. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I don't think they cared about the recycled cardboard. And you save it for later when you need something that's really strong. And then the last tip for making strong cardboard projects is something that I've learned on my robotics team, is that flexible things don't break as easily. So maybe your object you just don't want to break off. So one more time, an example on this Mandalorian gun. The barrel here, I had thought I wanted really rigid, and I could probably still do that if I really beefed it up. But actually, it's got these little like folds here on the cardboard at the bottom, and it bends back and forth, and has never really had any issues with breaking because it's flexible and isn't going to break off down there. So sometimes the best way to make something strong is actually to make it compliant, and that is going to save you a lot of work. And occasionally, if you're doing something really big, you actually, this is like a super pro tip, you want to design a weak spot into your model. Maybe if I was making like a whole robot claw assembly, like a weak spot, so I make sure that the big things don't break, and just a little like easily replaceable thing will break. And so you'd have to design like a purposeful weak point into your project. If you want to watch a video I have on different thicknesses of cardboard, like I was talking about, learn all about different thicknesses, which ones are stronger, which ones are weaker, check out this video right here. And there's another video right here from YouTube. It's the video they think is best for you. If you want to join the MakerBane tribe, I recommend you subscribe, and have a wonderful, blessed day. I'm praying for you all on my YouTube channel. God bless.